Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming back to this channel and tuning in to watch this video. Today's video is going to be very different. The reason why I started this channel was to help people. There are topics that I think that are very important to talk about. And this video is going to address one topic that I think is very important. I'll be a bit vulnerable in this video. I thought about it, like I really sat down and I'm like, do I really want to make this video? Do I really need to make this video? I kind of battled with making this video for a while, but here am I making this video. I felt led to make this video, I would say, because it was just, it was strong in my spirit that there's somebody out there that probably this video will help. Even if this video helps just one person, then I'm really satisfied because it's very important that we talk about this. First of all, can we take a moment to appreciate, the quality of the audio of this video? Yay! Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm hoping that this video audio is better than my previous videos. So the reason why I'm making this video is not just to just make a video for the sake of it, no. It is for many things, right? First of all, is to create awareness because I realized that I've not really seen a lot of people talk about it, among the African population. And I think maybe because most people don't know about it. Even from my conversations with people, I've realized that most people don't even know about what this thing is called, which I'll go into, right? And that's why I think or I thought to make this video. So this video might be a bit long, just bear with me. So I'm going to take you or walk you through my journey with endometriosis, what it's been like, how I found out, and how I've been managing it so far. I know that there might be people that might have the same condition out there that might not have a platform to talk about it, or you might know someone that have this condition, or you might relate to what I'll talk about, and you might not even know that you have it. Maybe you are thinking there's something that is wrong with you, but you don't know what it is, right? This video might help you diagnose what it might be, or it might help you know what to look out for. And for those that might have the same condition or something similar, I hope me sharing my experience would make you feel less alone. And also, the reason why I'm sharing this is not just even to create awareness, it's also to help me as well, because I'm also in the stage where I'm trying to understand what this is. I've been reading up a lot about it, and I feel like there are people that have more knowledge that's about this that might not be out there. If you have something similar, please share it in the comment section. Let us know what you've been doing that's been helping you. Let's just kind of like talk and relate in the comment section. I'll talk about what endometriosis is in the course of this video. So I'll just take you through the journey, right? So while I was growing up, like for a long time when I was still young, I think I started like my period when I was maybe 11 or so. I've always had like this really bad menstrual cramps, like pain, like heavy bleeding. I'll just be crying. I remember when I started my period then, I thought something had happened to me. I thought I had strained myself too much and I had maybe ruptured something inside of me and then I was bleeding. I was so scared to even tell anybody. I was on my own then. It's funny now looking back, I'm just like, what? From when I started my period, it has always been heavy flow. That was how it started. So I used to have pain then. Like I would wear a pad, right? In like maybe 1 minute. And then, heavy bleeding when I'm, my period like that. Then I'll sit down and then I'm stained. Like I get stained so fast. And again, I didn't know what tampon was. I don't really like tampons anyways, but as at that time, I didn't know that that was something I could use. So pads, I'll use those pads, like the heaviest, the one that was supposed to be for heavy flow. I'll use them and I'll still get like stained. But the pain was just there. And then people would say, okay, pain is kind of normal. But I just knew that something was wrong. And apart from that, something else that was bothersome was, I think, just shortly before I started my period, like, months before I started my period, I realized that I'll have like this severe tummy ache to the point where I'll be throwing up. Like I would really just clench my tummy and just bend down and in pain and just be throwing up. And this happened, for like some time. It will happen consistently for some time. And we just thought maybe it was malaria or something. I'll just get treated for malaria, typhoid, those kind of things, like, right. But I realized that those things, like, there was something I could see visibly in my tummy. I realized that my tummy just started to divide by itself. I don't know how to explain it. That was what I saw. Like every time I would have that pain, I would just clench my tummy so tight, and then I'll just bend, and I'm just, so much pain, and I'll have to throw up and stuff, even while in school. And then I'll have to leave school then and go back home because of, I mean, I can't keep throwing up in school and stuff like that, right? Anyways, that was, still in junior secondary school. And then I started my period shortly after those things started happening. And then the throwing up reduced. I stopped throwing up, and then but the pain, of course, the pain with period continued. And then I realized that the pain as well, when I'm not on my period or during ovulation, I would also have pain. So almost every single day I have tummy pain. This continued up until I graduated from secondary school. I went to university, and then still, of course, period will come, the pain will come, the pain will be so severe. I would have to miss class sometimes because I mean I can't go out. The pain is just too much. And the bleeding continues up until the 7th day. So normally when you're in your period, right, people tend to have like maybe the first day, second day, third day, they'll have heavy flow, right? And then maybe to the 5th day, like maybe fourth, 5th day, the flow will be a bit, less. But for me, I would have flow up until 7 days, like heavy flow. And of course, I was anemic, right? So every time I'll go to the hospital to do my blood, my blood level, like the PCV tests, and I'll find out that my blood was very low. This continued, I kept managing myself, when I needed to, I'll take pain meds. Sometimes I'll take like, there's this drug I would take, it's called Dolometa B, which contains diclofenac, and then I'll take Buscopan. Buscopan is one that I'll take that works for me. So I'll take that, two Buscopan, two diclofenac, and diclofenac is an NSAID. So that's what I found that would kind of help with the pain. It won't remove the pain. The pain is still there, but it just make me be able to walk through the day, right? So that's what I just did, manage myself up until university. I graduated from BSc. While all this were going on, like while I was still in school and stuff like that, we were looking for ways to understand what's happening. Why am I always in pain? Yes, I'm, periods and stuff like that, but it wasn't normal. Like the bleeding was too much, the pain was too much. So we'll go to hospitals. I did a lot of scans. I remember the first diagnosis that was given to me was that I had appendicitis, like my appendix was inflamed. I needed to do an appendectomy. That was what they had said then. I think I can't remember what age I was, but this was like years ago. But my parents were not really like, they're not the surgery people. They don't want surgery. Like they want to be sure about it. I went to another hospital. They said it was ulcer. I was having ulcer, which makes sense because of the NSAIDs I was taking. Remember, I was taking those diclofenac, and NSAIDs would cause ulcer or gastritis. So ulcers make sense, kind of, right? But would ulcer cause pain during period? Would ulcer cause heavy bleeding? Would ulcer didn't the ulcer pain can be very crazy though. Like if you have ulcer, if you know what ulcer pain is, it's very bad. So, but the ulcer pain it didn't really explain the pains I was having, wasn't really consistent with the pains I was having. So I'll do a couple of scans. So scan on my pelvic area, on my abdomen, different scan just to see. So after another time, they said that it was pelvic inflammatory disease, I think, the PID, which basically is an infection in the reproductive system. That was what they said. They said maybe public toilets, when I use public toilets, maybe I got infection from there or something. So that was what they said could be the problem that was causing pain. So okay, no problem. I treated for the PID. So I was given a dose of antibiotics. I was, taking that. I took that for a while. Still, that didn't help me. I still had pain. Again, I kept going to hospitals. I kept doing scans and upon scans, but they didn't help. They were not finding anything that could explain those things, like the pain I was having, right? So after my NYSC, so there's something called NYSC in Nigeria, which is National Youth Service Corps. That's something that you need to do for like 1 year after your university, after like your BSc. After that program, I worked in Lagos, University of Lagos, in a hospital setting. It's kind of like a fertility clinic in a way, but they do other tests as well. So they would typically do tests for women that were trying to conceive to see what was the problem, right? So I was working there, and that was where I kind of heard of for the first time what endometriosis was. Well, I knew what fibroid was, but I didn't know what ovarian cyst or polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, or those PCO was. So it was there I heard those things from for the first time. So when I was there, I would see women that would come in, they would run their tests, they would see their hormone level will probably be off. For example, testosterone, which is supposed to be high in a man, will be high in those kind of women, and that would kind of explain why they couldn't take in, right? Prolactin, which is supposed to be kind of high in women that are breastfeeding, will be high in women that are not breastfeeding. Those kind of things. So they had hormonal imbalance. And then sometimes you see that they will have beards under their chin. Yeah, that's kind of a sign of hormonal imbalance. Not in all cases though, but you see those things and then you kind of know. So that was where I started to see that, oh, okay, so the hormonal imbalance could explain some of the things I was having. And I remember one time the person in charge of that place looked at me and he said, I suspect that you have hormonal imbalance. He wasn't sure if it was endometriosis or ovarian cyst or polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS or whatever. He just knew that something was wrong. And I'm like, I feel so because there's something I've been having this pain and just I explained what was happening. He even saw that I was having pain. He was planning on collecting my blood samples and doing an experiment and doing stuff like that. But unfortunately, I left that place after 6 months of working there. So I couldn't run those tests. So I left that place to go do my master's. While doing my master's, we went to a hospital. My parents were like, okay, even if it's a surgery, whatever it is that we have to do, we're going to do it because this is getting out of hand. The pain was getting too much. The bleeding, every single time I was always in pain, right? We went to the hospital that day. The doctor that saw us, and he was asking questions, of course. He ended up saying that he feels like we need to do an appendectomy, that he suspects that I might have appendicitis, which is basically an inflamed appendix. We went there that day. I didn't even think that I was going to actually do a surgery that day. I was thinking, okay, I'll go there, come back home, even if whatever, we'll plan for it. But I went there that day. I didn't go back home. That was the day I did the surgery to remove my appendix, right? So I stayed there. They did all of the tests, first of all, and then they prepped me for surgery. They cut me open. They removed the appendix and all of that. Okay, so that was 2018. I think November 2018. It was a kind of like an invasive surgery. It wasn't laparoscopy. They cut me open. And so of course I had to heal from that. After I healed, I didn't see any change. I did not see any change. I was still having pains and pains and pains. A period will come, I'll have a lot of bleeding and stuff. So what was the point of that surgery then? I was like, okay, at least we tried it. Maybe my appendix was inflamed at that time, but that wasn't the root cause of the pain I was having and the bleeding I was having. I finished my master's and then I came here. I came to Canada to do my PhD, which is, of course, what I'm doing right now. So I was like, okay, at least in Canada, we hear that the healthcare here is better than in Nigeria. Like doctors are better, I guess. So that was what we heard, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll get treatment, better treatment here. At least they would, understand what's happening. So I came here in 2019, I think September. I settled down. I went to see the doctor. My first appointment was in January of 2020. That was when I first got an appointment with a family doctor. So when I saw the person, I explained everything that was happening, and then he said, okay, let's go do a scan to see what's happening. So I went for the scan and then the result came out. And guess what the doctor told me? He said the results show that you have multiple fibroids. The sizes are not so bad, but they are big. And you have ovarian cysts as well. So I was like, okay, I have ovarian cysts. Really? Like, I was just quiet because I'm like, at least this is making sense. This diagnosis makes sense to, like, with the pain and everything I've been experiencing for the past how many years. There were many questions in my mind. I'm like, did these fibroids develop here? Like I mean, in Canada as at that time? Or have I always had fibroids for years and then they were not caught from the scan that they were doing in Nigeria? Ovarian cysts, they didn't catch those ones as well. Like, how is it that I developed those things in Canada or what? I was actually quite happy when they told me this diagnosis. Normally you would hear maybe a condition and the reaction would be that you'd be sad, right? But for me, I was like, oh my God, I was quite happy because for years I've been suffering in pain, not knowing what was happening. There was no name to the diagnosis. It seemed as though I was just making up the pain. It seemed as though the bleeding was just coming up from nowhere. I don't know, like, what's the name of what's happening to me? There must be a name. And now hearing that there's a name to what's happening, it was just so good. Like hearing a diagnosis, I don't know if anyone can relate to what I'm saying, but like at least for me, there was a name to it. And if there's a name to it, you can know what's happening. There's a treatment or there's a management option. So I was like, okay, multiple fibroids, ovarian cysts, what do we do? So he's like, okay, I'll refer you to a gynecologist. So who can, of course, they have more experience to know what to do with regards this condition. So when I saw this gynecologist, I felt, relaxed with the person. It was better than the other person I had seen. So I told him everything that has happened. He was thinking that, okay, let's look at shrinking this fibroid before we operate on it. So instead of going and cutting you open to be very invasive, let's just shrink it a bit to the size that maybe we can then go and do maybe a laparoscopy, just basically just putting a small hole and putting a camera or a device to bring out the fibroid, or even just shrinking it to the point where it comes out by itself or something. So I was like, okay, no problem. So what medication should I take? He was like, okay, let's start with taking hormonal pills. So the ovarian cyst they saw, they said it was the hemorrhagic type. So the cyst has a fluid. It's always filled up with blood. That causes pain. Like the pain from ovarian cyst is not even funny. And of course, the fibroid causes a lot of bleeding. That was why I was bleeding for a long time. So the hormonal pill basically would stop the ovulation from happening, and then those cysts would not grow every single month. Basically, to preserve the ovaries in the long run, and. And then the hormonal pills also can help to shrink the fibroid in a way as well. The first drug he prescribed was Mavelon 21. That was the first hormonal pill I was taking. The side effects with hormonal pills are terrible. Like they are so bad, right? So I was on this pill for I think 4 months. And in that 4 months, the pain I was having was kind of worse. The Mavelon 21 is 21 pills. So I'll take it for 21 days. And then for 7 days, I won't take it, right? And for those 7 days is when I'm supposed to see my period. That's how the drug works. And for those 7 days, oh my God, the pain from those days, like I would be so lightheaded where I would almost be fainting. Like I couldn't go out. And mind you, the 21 days I'm taking those pills, some days I'm still having pain. But the 7 days that I don't take those pills, I bleed a lot. Like the bleeding is so heavy. And then the pain, oh my God, the pain is times four of, or even times 10 of whatever I was feeling before. It was so bad. I couldn't. Like, I would just be panting. I'll be breathing through my mouth. It was so bad, right? And of course, this affected my school. I wouldn't go to the lab for like some days. And apart from that, hormonal pills can be very bad because they can also make you depressed. They can also dampen your mood, right? So of course I'm in pain. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't do stuff. I couldn't even eat. I couldn't eat. I was emaciating. I couldn't do anything. It was very tough. But again, they're saying keep taking it because the side effects would wear off after 6 months. I remember one day I called my supervisor and I told her that I'm done with my program. Like I'm going back to Nigeria. I can't. Like that's how bad it was. I think that was 2021. So I was able to go home to Nigeria. But instead of just leaving my program, I just took a break. I took like 1 month and some weeks off, and then I went back to Nigeria. So I was at home. Of course, my parents like my mom, she took care of me. And so, I started to feel a bit better. And then when the 7 days came, when I was at home, of course, the pain came back again. And then my parents saw how bad it was. They were like, "What? What is this? What is the point of taking this birth control pill if you are going to have times 10 of the pain you're having?" So my mom just told me, "Just stop taking this medicine." I stopped taking it, for a while. And then I started to feel better actually. Like mentally, I started to feel better. And I think because I was at home in Nigeria, my family was there, I had support system. I was feeling better, mentally, because your mental health affects your physical health as well. So till today, I still don't know if that medication really helps me because there are times that I'll be bleeding for 2 weeks while under medication. I'm like, what's the point, right? I was already managing myself. I managed myself from when I was young up until this time without birth control pills, right? I would have pain, but I was able to push myself, manage myself. This medication wasn't even really helping me. So what's the point of taking it, right? In Canada, the thing with Canada healthcare system is that you have to kind of wait. There's a long wait list for many things. So since I was in Nigeria, we were like, okay, why not just try the healthcare in Nigeria since you can actually, you'll be seen on the same day that you go to hospital. Even though you pay for it, yes, it's not free. In Canada, it's free. I guess that's why there's a long wait list. In Nigeria, it's not free. You pay for it, but at least you get attended to. So we went to hospitals in Nigeria. We saw different doctors as well. I remember going to a gynecologist in a hospital, and I explained to him. I remember telling him, I said, yes, there's fibroids and there's ovarian cysts and all of that. But I told him that I feel like I may have endometriosis because I've read up on this thing, all of the symptoms I'm having, everything, it just makes sense that this is what I'm having. And the man said, well, endometriosis, okay. How old are you? And then he said, are you sexually active? I said, no. He was like, hey, so how can you know that you have endometriosis? Because, one symptom of endometriosis is that there's pain during sex. So that was what he was using to diagnose endometriosis. A gynecologist. How is that what you say to somebody? There are ways you can find out. This laparoscopy. Unfortunately, you can't find out through scan. That's the thing, right? All the scans I was doing, they wouldn't have seen endometriosis. It's only when they look inside. So him saying if I was sexually active to see if I had endometriosis, that didn't make sense. That's not a way to diagnose endometriosis. That's a symptom. It's not a diagnosis. And it's even funny that some of the gynecologists in Nigeria don't even know what endometriosis is, right? And that's why I'm making this video, because most people don't even know what's about it. So I went to another doctor. This one, they were like, okay, I should do a surgery before leaving, before going back to Canada. That was what that person was saying. So they were talking about doing a myomectomy, which is basically opening up and removing the fibroids. In Nigeria, laparoscopy is not very common. So what they were talking about for the surgery was an invasive surgery. But to me, that didn't make sense, because number one, I was going to go back to Canada in like the next week, and then that means I would need to stay for 6 weeks or 3 months to heal. And also, I didn't think that the fibroid was the one causing the pain. The fibroids could explain the heavy bleeding, but fibroids could not explain the pain I was having. Again, fibroid is quite common. It's very common in like African population. Like many women have fibroids. They actually live with fibroids, except it's so big, and then it's affecting someone's, quality of life. Then they can do a surgery. Mine wasn't so big, right? And it wasn't what was causing the pain. I just needed to get to the root cause of the pain. So I just said, okay, I'm not doing the surgery. I'm going to go back to Canada and just wait. So when I came back to Canada, I kept going for my doctor's appointments, kept seeing my gynecologists and stuff like that. My gynecologist then retired, the one I was seeing, and then he referred me to a younger person. I went to meet the person, right? And then I explained again, started explaining all of my, all of the conditions I was having. He said, okay, I think we need to go back to birth control pills. I explained all of the things I went through with the last one I was taking. He was like, okay, maybe because I didn't complete the 6 months, maybe because I didn't do this, maybe because I didn't do that. He started giving me excuses. So I was like, okay, no problem. Since he's a new person, right? This is a new doctor. Let me just try it again with him, right? So he prescribed again. I took it again, the Marvelon 21. And of course, the same thing that happened before happened again, right? So after some time, the Marvelon 21 wasn't really doing much. I just stopped taking it, honestly, because I was still having lots of pain and then, of course, heavy bleeding and stuff like that. So fast forward to November 2023, my doctor finally said that I'll be able to book you for a surgery. This surgery will be a laparoscopy. He was able to do three things in this surgery. So this laparoscopy, the first thing he did was myomectomy, which is basically removing the fibroids. The second thing he did was to look at my fallopian tube. So what they did was they pumped me up with gas, basically, so they would have access to my tummy. So they checked for my fallopian tubes to see if they were blocked. And then he also checked to see if I had endometriosis. From what my doctor said, right, before I went for the surgery, it was supposed to last for like 1 hour, 30 minutes to 2 hours. But of course, the surgery lasted for over 4 hours. Why? The fibroids they removed the ones at the front of my uterus. The reason why they spent that long was because when he looked inside of my tummy, he saw that my bowel, my ovaries, my uterus, everything had married together. They were doing a wedding, I think. I'm not sure what they were doing, but they had already combined, like they had married themselves together. So just imagine the amount of pain that can cause, right? So the surgery he did was to remove the adhesions, and that was what took a while, right? Because of how much they had been together. I'll talk about what endometriosis is. So now he actually found out that I have endometriosis. So this is when they diagnosed me with endometriosis, November of 2023. After all the pain I've had over like how many years ago, right? So what is endometriosis? Basically, this endometriosis is a chronic condition where the tissue that is similar to the lining of the uterus, which is called the endometrium, grows outside of the uterus. Now, this endometrium, which is supposed to be found inside of the uterus, right, is now found, for example, on the ovaries or fallopian tubes or on the surface, on the outer surface of the uterus or other organs in the pelvic region. And in some cases, it can spread beyond. So Imagine what they had seen in me. So they had seen that endometrium, that's the line of the uterus, had spread beyond the uterus and spread to the ovaries. And I'm just like, how long has this been happening? When I went to see him after the surgery, he showed me the video and I was like, what's this? So this thing had been inside of me all this while. I've been in pain all this while. And this has been the cause of this pain all this while. Now, this endometriosis is actually quite common. It affects about 10% of women of reproductive ages. That's approximately about 190 million people. It's quite worrisome because most people don't actually know that they have endometriosis. I feel like it's very common that people don't get diagnosed until like maybe in their 30s or even in their 40s. They don't get diagnosed of endometriosis until they're about to actually start giving birth. That's when they now realize that they might have endometriosis. And it's very worrisome, honestly, because imagine if this condition was a condition that affected men. I feel like by now they would have had a cure. I'm telling you, because most times you tell people about your pain, they just trivialize it because I mean, you are a woman. Typically, women have period pains, right? So it's normal for you to have this kind of pain. No matter the amount of pain you are in, they don't believe that you actually should be checked out. And that's the problem, right? And that's why most people just go undiagnosed for years. And I'm sure there are probably many people that actually have this condition, even currently right now, that are going through a lot of pain and they are seeing doctors, and doctors are probably telling them that it's all in their mind, which is a problem, right? So the symptoms of endometriosis can be similar to other symptoms as well, like polycystic ovarian syndrome. That's another one as well. It can be similar to PID. The symptoms can be very similar. So it's very kind of hard to diagnose endometriosis. And it's very sad that it's not easily diagnosed with a scan. You kind of have to do laparoscopy. That's kind of the problem. So the question is, now that I've found that I actually have endometriosis that I've suspected all this while, what is the management that I've been doing so far? It's unfortunate that even up until now, there are no treatments to endometriosis. The only way that we can actually manage endometriosis right now is through hormonal pills again or surgeries. The thing with surgery is that you can't, it depends on the stage of the endometriosis. If it's like stage 1 or stage 2, where the endometrium is just maybe in one part of the body, then they can actually do, a surgery to remove the adhesions so that they don't spread. In my case, which is stage 4, it's quite hard to do a surgery because it has spread all over different organs. And I remember the doctor that operated on me was saying that he didn't expect that he would spend that long because he didn't expect that amount of adhesions. I'm like, but I've been telling you for a long time that I was in pain. Did you think I was just joking? Honestly, I don't even blame you because they don't consider like something like fibroids or ovarian cysts or endometriosis an emergency. Just with the way the healthcare system is here, you have to be on a wait list for almost a year, right? So they kind of prioritize people that need those things first, right? After the surgery that I did, I recovered, and thankfully it was laparoscopy, which requires like about maybe like a week of recovery. I could go back home that same day of the surgery. I have like 5 different scars now because they kind of made like holes, 5 different holes in my tummy, so they could actually fit all the device inside of it. So I had to recover and stuff like that. So basically, the management option for endometriosis is hormonal pills. After the surgery, I had to go back for a follow up, and the doctor had to put me again on birth control pills. But this time around, it was a different one. So the name of this one is called Slind. I think this one is just a progesterone only pill. The Mavelon 21, I think, is a progesterone and an estrogen pill, if I'm not mistaken. So this one basically contains 28 tablets. You take them for 24 days, and the last 4 days you take like a placebo or something. For the first few months, I was still having pain. It wasn't doing anything for me. I was still seeing my period. I was still bleeding, and then all of those things were still happening. I feel like this sling was even way worse than the Mavelon 21 because I realized that I started having these ulcer symptoms. If you remember, I said that I feel like ulcer was something that I've always had before because of the amount of NSAIDs that I had taken in the past, right? But I felt like that slinged, that medication made the gastritis and the ulcer symptoms I was having worse. Like it just worsened it. Like I felt like my tummy was on fire. Like every single day, I'll be having like burning sensation. Like I couldn't do anything. Like I was in a lot of pain every single day, coupled with the pain that comes from like cramps. And of course, while taking this lean, I was very depressed. This depression was actually way, 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 way worse, to the point where I was actually suicidal. In my mind, I was like, what's the point of living? Because me taking a breath, like if I breathe in and breathe out, I feel pain. But every time I hold my breath, like it's like the pain is not there. Like I don't know how to explain what I'm saying, but that was how I felt. When you are depressed, you would know that, like in that state where you are in, you know that you are depressed. But at that time that you're depressed, it seems as though that's the normal, like I'm not sure how to explain what I'm saying. If you've been depressed before, you probably understand what I'm saying, right? So I knew that this wasn't normal. I knew that yes, I feel pain and then I feel frustrated most of the time. When I feel pain, I'm not, I'm just not happy, right? But I knew that something was wrong, to the point that for me to be thinking about actually harming myself, I knew that something was wrong. Every day I wake up, like I'll sigh a big sigh, like another day. I knew that this medication I was taking could cause depression, but I didn't know the extent at which it had already gone. I had to even go for therapy, not really therapy, for counseling, because it was so bad. I started getting very, very, very emotional. Not just emotional. Like if I get so sad, I am so sad to the point where I'm thinking of harming myself. And then if I'm happy, which is very rare, I'm like, I shouldn't be happy. Like nothing is worth being happy about. Maybe like I won an award or something. I'll feel like I shouldn't be happy about that. You get it? It was a mess. And I remember that I had issues with people then, because I was just saying anything and everything that came to my mind. If you offend me normally I wouldn't even say anything to anybody. Like, it wasn't so bad. I wasn't cussing people out, but like the typical me would not say those things I was saying, right? I just knew that wasn't myself because of this medication. It was so bad. It was causing pain. It was causing me to bleed. It was still causing me to be depressed. But I kept taking it because they said to take it for 6 months. After 6 months, then the side effects will reduce and then you start getting better. But after like 4 months, I went back to the hospital. I told my doctor that it wasn't helping me, it wasn't working. And then he told me, start taking two. Like I should take two sling, like two of the medication instead of one. I was like, okay. So I went back home, I took two. The depression was worse, everything was worse. All of this time, honestly, it's just God that has been keeping me. Even right from when I started, like, I mean, of course, since when I was born. But all of this time I was having pain, since all of these situations were happening, only God was the one that was keeping me, honestly, because I couldn't have done it myself. Every time I look back and I'm like, how did I even manage from like BSc to masters to now doing PhD? I keep asking myself how, and the answer keeps coming back to me as it's only God that could have done this. It's only God that could have helped me to have come this far, right? But one thing that I'm really grateful for again is my supervisor. So there are days that I couldn't come to the lab, I couldn't go to school. I'll just tell her that I can't come. And she's like, okay, don't worry, just rest and stuff like that. I'm sure if it was maybe some other supervisors, they probably would not have understood, or maybe they would have maybe just made it something else, right? But she understood, and I'm grateful for her. I think around August I stopped taking it because I was getting too depressed, like too depressed. So I stopped taking this medication as of August of this year, just like some months back, right? After I went off slinged, I told myself that I would never take birth control pills anymore. But tell me why I went to my doctor just last week, and he's telling me that the only way I can actually manage this again is to go back to birth control pills. I went there to tell him that I would like to consider a surgery if that's an option. Like I would take that over these birth control pills side effects. And he said no. So surgery in less than a year is not advisable. And again, he can't even do a surgery because of this, the stage I am in. What he said was that he wants me to try out another birth control pill. So I'm going on my third brand of birth control pill, and this will be my fourth time trying birth control pill, right? And he feels like this one is better. This is the one that he said that would work for me. So I haven't started taking this medication yet, so I can't give you an update on that. So hopefully I'll come back and give you an update on this medication I'm taking to see if it actually helps me. But the man swears by it. Like he said that that's the one that's quite popular, right? But it is expensive. So that's the problem with birth control pills. So the thing is, I'm an international student in Canada, right? So I don't have full health coverage for many things, for most medications as well. So that's another problem with hormonal pills. They are very expensive. So this one that he prescribed for me, he said is about $270. So imagine paying $270 every month or every week. I don't even know if it's every week or every month. That's expensive, right? But honestly, the stage I am in right now, if this will make me feel better, I actually don't mind trying it out. So the ones I had tried before, they were kind of the cheaper options. That was why I tried those ones, right? So this time around, I feel like I'm not even going to even spare any expense, right? I'm going to just try to get the best, just to get me help, honestly, because this condition, endometriosis, is not funny. It is not funny at all. I've done other research as well. Apart from hormonal pills, what can also help is your lifestyle. I mean, your diet, you have to exercise. And to be honest, I feel like I'm not yet in the mental space to start thinking about healthy living. I'm eating healthy to some extent. From what I've seen, like I've done a lot of research, right? And I follow a lot of people that actually have the same condition. And I see what they eat, I see how they live. And to be honest, it takes your mental capacity to be able to invest your time, right, into saying that, okay, I'm going to go and jog this time, I'm going to go and work out this time, I'm going to go and do this, when you're not even okay, like yourself, you're not even okay physically and mentally. How then do you stand up and say that I'm going to go and work out when you are actually always in pain, right? So I feel like I'm not yet in the mental space to start this healthy lifestyle. That's actually my plan in the long run, because I feel like that would actually help a lot. What I've been doing is actually investing into like vitamins, all these natural like teas, spearmint tea. I take chamomile tea, those natural like tea, stuff like that. Like I have a lot of them. I take vitamins, I take omega 3, I take zinc, I take magnesium. Like I've invested in all those supplements. Like I've researched a lot in supplements that can help with endometriosis and stuff like that. I feel like they're a bit easier for me because I can just pop them in my mouth and stuff like that. And to be honest, the people I follow that have this endometriosis, most of them are whites, if not all of them. I rarely see people that are like Africans or blacks, or let me say Africans, that have this condition. From what I see they do, like the white people, what they eat, to be honest, okay, yes, if I'm serious about my health, it shouldn't matter what it is. I should actually invest and try to, do the, yes, I agree. But I can't relate to what they eat or what they do, because that's not my lifestyle. Like they eat in the morning, they're eating salmon, they're eating asparagus, they're eating, broccoli, they're eating many things. And while those things are good, I'm not saying they're bad, but I can't relate to those things because of how I've grown up or how I live my life. So that's something that I kind of struggle with. I need to actually come to the mental space where I need to, okay, no matter what it is, even if it's not nice, I'm going to actually just invest my time and just try to get better, just improve my lifestyle. Actually, sometime last year, before my surgery, I was working out. I was going to the gym every morning and sometimes in the evenings. I think I was going like maybe 5 to 6 times a week. I was actually quite consistent. I will go, I will do cardio, I will do weight training. Because of the surgery, I had to stop the gym, right? And then after 6 weeks of the surgery, they'll tell you not to do anything strenuous, right? Of course, the 6 weeks have turned to 10 months because I haven't gone back there since last year, November. So that's my plan. I plan to actually start doing those things, making healthier lifestyle choices. But for now, I'm just taking it one step at a time, honestly. I'm not going to stress myself. Just do what I can. I'm going to just take this pill that they've prescribed for me, and then when I need to, I'll take my pain medication and stuff like that. That's basically how I've been managing it. I know that this might not be the best way to manage it. Like I said, there are things I can do. I don't want to push myself and stress myself too much, right? So I'm going to just take it one step at a time. So before I go, I want to actually just touch on the support system for people that maybe know people that have endometriosis or even any condition at all. The support system is very important. I realize that most people don't know how to empathize. And I feel like that's where emotional intelligence come in. I feel like that's something that needs to be touched on, a lot. I realized that when I was like, in my like depressive state, I was having a lot of pain and stuff like that. So there were a few people that knew about what was happening with me. And just a couple of them don't know how to actually empathize. I just told you that I'm depressed because I'm taking this medication, and because of this condition I'm having pain. And then the next thing is that what you're going through? Oh, That's not bad now. There are people that have something worse than what you are going through. And again, this person was coming from a good place. This thing that they were saying wasn't to make me feel bad, it was to elevate me that, oh, my condition is not so bad, right? Some people are actually going through worse. Let me be thankful for what I'm going through at this time, right? But that time, it didn't make me feel like that too. I felt so bad. Afterwards, I mentioned it to the person. I'm like, see what you said. And the person was like, oh my God, I didn't, no, 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 that wasn't my intention. The person didn't even know that they did anything wrong because they didn't mean it in a bad way, right? But it sounded very bad at that time, right? So when we say things, we need to be very, very nice and kind. Sometimes people say that, oh, I understand, or I've been through what you've been through, or I can relate. They are trying to help you because basically to tell you that they've gone through this, that you can also come out of it, right? The truth is that you cannot, like, no one can understand what I've gone through, right? Or what you've gone through. That's the truth. When I was, down, and then someone called me, and then I kind of explained what was happening. And then what the person has said was, I've been through something similar. I've been. That's not what we should be saying at that time, because it sounds like you're trivializing what I've gone through, and that's not nice, right? The support system is very important. Like, what you say, how you act, how you react is very important. Sometimes just being there and just listening, not even saying anything, just hugging the person or crying with the person, right, is enough to just make that person feel good at that time. Of course, there are times when we need to actually encourage and preach and teach and use the word of God to encourage them and pray for them and stuff like that. But like, there are times that all the person needs is just listen, just pray for the person, and that's it. I think that's all about this video. This video is very long. Yes, like I said, it's going to be a long video, but I hope that this video will help somebody. So if you're someone that have gone through something similar, you just know that something is wrong, but you are not sure what it is. You can actually follow up with your doctor. If you don't have one, you can just get a doctor, a gynecologist or something. Try to go and tell them that this is what you think that might be the problem. They can try to book you for a laparoscopy. They can just check. And also, like I said, there are many conditions that can be very similar to endometriosis, like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So basically, just do your research. Look at the symptoms you're having and see what you think the condition might be, and go to your doctor. Doctors can help you, but sometimes you help yourself. Most times, actually, people actually help themselves to diagnose their condition. If you're somebody that have this condition, just keep holding on. Don't give up. And before I go, one thing I will also say is that I'm grateful to God for how everything has played out. Because when I look back, I would want to tend to regret, that I've gone through this amount of pain so much. All of this time, I could have just maybe known that I had endometriosis maybe like 10 years ago or something, and I would have helped myself, maybe, I don't know, right? But I'm grateful to God that I found out about this endometriosis last year, because when I did a research about endometriosis and I saw the support group about people that have the same condition talking about all their experiences, most of the people I saw or have seen, they are saying that this condition was enough for them to actually leave school. Some of them dropped out of school. Some of them were failing classes. Some of them left their job. They quit their job. Basically, this condition kind of like held them back from doing some of the things that they wanted to do. And I'm so grateful to God, because imagine if I had found out I had endometriosis maybe like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and had seen that people were actually dropping out and leaving their schools and stuff like that. I would have thought that, okay, since it's so bad that people can actually leave their program, let me just do the same thing. I would not be here, right? I'm not saying that those people that actually left, that they're not strong. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that it's just all God's plan, because honestly, even now that I'm seeing those things, there are times that I would think, I'm like, should I just leave this program that I'm doing? I have an excuse to actually leave this program. I'm doing my PhD. I can actually drop out and say that I have endometriosis, that's why I drop out. But no, so if you're someone that have this condition, or you're someone that's going through something similar, just keep pushing. You don't have to give up. It's possible to achieve what you want to achieve. It's not going to limit you at all. Endometriosis did not limit me, and it will never limit me by God's grace, right? So keep holding on, keep pushing. On days that you feel very low, very down, just pray, just lie down, pray. If you can, talk to people, Don't be alone, because being alone can make it worse, honestly. Sometimes talking to people actually helps. Actually, it does help. If you need someone to talk to, you can talk to me. Send me an email or come to my comment section and just type out everything that is your heart is, wanting to say, right? Just talk to somebody. One thing I didn't mention is that, of course, endometriosis, one fear is that there can be a risk of infertility. That's something that my doctor keeps telling me. Every single time I go to see him, he's asking me, do you want to get pregnant? Are you married now? Do you plan to have kids? I'm like, yes. When do you plan to have kids? It seems as though one way that he wants me to manage this condition is by having kids, right? Which is not very feasible. I feel like telling somebody to have kids so that they will stop having pain. Yes, that's one way, but can you actually find an alternative that can help me in the long run and stop telling me to go have kids, right? That's something that, there's a fear, is that there's a risk of infertility. I know in my heart of hearts, I know that I'll carry my children in due time. I will not have any problems and stuff like that. And I pray that everyone that is also experiencing something similar as well will carry their children in due time as well. In the name of Jesus. Amen. I just pray for everyone out there that might be going through something similar. I pray that God's strength will come upon you. I pray for God's grace. I pray for God's mercy upon your life. I pray for God's goodness upon your life. I pray that everything that you touch will be blessed. I pray that you would not fail. I pray that the works of your hand will prosper. Everything that you find your hand doing will be a success. And at the end of the day, you will testify in the name of Jesus. And I pray that you would carry your children. There won't be any cause of infertility. The same way I'll come back and testify and I'll carry my children, this endometriosis will not limit me. It's the same way that you would come back and testify that you carry your own children as well. In the name of Jesus. Amen. All right. So thank you for watching. I hope this video helped one or two people. Please share this video to anybody that might be going through something similar. Leave your experience in the comment section as well. I'd love to hear them. Let me know things that you're doing as well. If you have the same condition, let me know what you're doing, all the things you're doing to help yourself as well. Thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed this video and if that's helped you, please like this video, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.